Dumb, 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 dumb. Longtime followers know I am a broken record about tracking numbers for your gym. After all, if business is a sport, numbers are how we keep the score. But there's an important caveat. Some numbers are dumb. Watch this video to learn why and what to track instead. My name is Mark Fisher, and if you like today's video, head over to businessforunicorns.com, where you'll find out more about how we help training gym owners create more income, more impact, and more freedom. So in no particular order, here are the 3 dumbest metrics that you can track. The first one is revenue. Now, this might be surprising to you because ultimately we need to make money in our training gym if we want to be successful. And to be clear, I'm just saying that these are numbers that sometimes people over-obsess over without the context to understand what they actually mean. So for instance, let's say you are a training gym and you are absolutely crushing it. You're making $60K per month. You're making $720,000 per year. Wow, that's really amazing, right? But what if you're only paying yourself a salary of $40,000 per year and your profit margin is at 5%, which is $36K, a lot of which is not actually probably even leaving, some that's gonna stay in the business. So let's say your total profit margin is 5% and your net owner benefit running a $720,000 facility is $50,000. Now, listen, I understand in a lot of the country, a lot of you might be excited to make that kind of income, but I'll tell you, real talk from your pal Mark over here, if you're making $720K in revenue, you should be having more than $50K as net owner benefit. So the 2 numbers that I like more than revenue are, first of all, you have profit margin. So if you're making, let's say, $50K in profit and you have a $200,000 facility, and that's after your payout, that's probably not the worst thing in the world. But if you're making $50K in revenue and you make $1.5 million, that's not as good. So the one that I love most is net owner benefit. And net owner benefit, by my way of thinking, is what is your salary? How much do you take home in your bank account in draws or distributions from the profit that the business makes? And third and important, what kind of owner perks, or as there's something called owner hoo-ha, are you getting in exchange for running the business? These are things like paying for your cell phone bill, maybe paying for your car, maybe there's a stipend for a home office, any number of things that are legally allowed by the tax code but benefit your life as the owner. So another fun saying here worth remembering is revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. And if you're looking for ideas to improve your profit margin, you definitely are gonna wanna check out my video about exactly what we spend running a multi-million-dollar gym. That's a great video where I break down exactly what's getting spent on what, and we'll give you some insight to hopefully what sort of benchmarks you're shooting for how you are spending things in your gym. Dumbest metric for training gym owners to track and be super proud of is number of employees. This one is fascinating. And again, listen, all of these are human nature. It makes sense to be excited about how much money you're making. It can feel very proud to be like, I have a team of 70 people working at my training gym. Well, the problem is you don't really want more employees for more employees' sake. And the reason, of course, that people don't know a lot about business, get very excited about this, is because it is oftentimes considered a proxy for the relative success of the business. So let's do some math of this, okay? So let's say you are paying 15 people on average $30K per year. That's $450,000. Once we add on payroll and even modest benefits, we're at least at $500K. Yikes. So my question to you is, would you rather run our hypothetical training gym making $720K total in revenue with $500,000 towards employees and 15 employees? Or would you rather run the same hypothetical $720,000 training gym with only 6 employees? Well, here's another way of thinking about this. You can calculate what is the amount of revenue your business is taking in per employee. In our first example, you're making $48K per your 15 employees at your $720K gym. Well, if you're paying, 30, let's call it 35, maybe all in with taxes, payroll, etc., business ain't gonna really work. Alternatively, if you have 6 employees, now you're generating $120K in revenue. And that's awesome because that means you can pay less people more. And if there's one thing I've learned that is my preferred strategy, is you're always gonna be better off with less people that are being paid more. In that latter scenario, you likely have better margins and better net owner benefit because you're able to pay people more. You're likely to have better retention with these employees because you're able to pay people more. You're likely going to have better performance because these are higher performing individuals that are commanding more money in the market. And finally, having less people is deeply underrated. It makes your business a lot less complicated. There's a lot less opportunities for confusion, less opportunities for interpersonal tensions. Like I said, at this point in my career, I am always personally going to choose, and I'm going to recommend to you, choose less people making more money per person. And the third dumbest metric to track as a training gym owner, be so proud of, is square footage in your facility. Now, admittedly, if you're watching this video, my assumption is you're slightly more than average sophisticated training gym owner. Oh, you. But it's not uncommon when people are starting their adventure to be so proud, like, oh, I have a 10,000 square foot facility. Well, cool, but if you're only making 50K in profit on 10,000 square feet, that's not so great. You know, it is cool if you have a 2,000K facility and you're making 100K in profit after a reasonable owner salary. That's cool. Now, I'm not aware of any commonly accepted benchmarks for profit per square foot because the reality is this does vary a lot based on market. And remember, you can look at profit as profit per square foot, but the absolute profit matters too, right? So there is something to be said sometimes for getting a slightly smaller piece of a much larger pie. And I can't resist. I know we said 3. I'm giving you one more. This is a bonus dumb metric. Number of locations. Well, number of locations in theory, again, it's often a signifier that things are going well, but in practice, I can tell you from firsthand experience and from coaching a lot of people, that's not always the case. Listen, if you are in a market where you have micro gyms and you're doing relatively very low revenue, so as a percentage of the total revenue coming in, that's okay. I guess that can make sense, but here's another thing consideration. Here's another thing to perhaps track instead is your net owner benefit hourly rate. Because if you're working 80 hours per week and you're stressed as hell and you have a bunch of facilities, even if you're making 100K per year, well, that may not be your dream. So contrast that with if you have one facility and you're making 100K per year, and by definition, that's gonna be a lot less stress, a lot less work. And let's say you only work 30 hours per week in your business because you've got a strong number 2. Hey, do you want to find out more about a strong number 2? Go ahead and click the link below. And while you're there, let's go ahead, just hit the subscribe thing. Let's do this because I think this is working. Am I right? Am I right? Or what about the scenario where the 6 locations are really working? Perhaps you're doing the same 120K in profit and your take home is still at 100K over 6 locations, but because the business has built some sophistication, you're only working 20 hours per week. So maybe there is a lot of complexity, but you've really built a management staff to mostly run the business for you. So now you're making $100 per hour, you're only working 20 hours per week, and you divide the rest of the time between traveling, hanging out with your family, and pursuing alternative investments. So in closing, listen, full disclosure, dumbest metrics is maybe a clickbaity title, I confess. But now that I've had your attention, I hope you can see that in fact, it is not uncommon for a lot of business people and certainly training gym owners to get overly obsessed with some vanity metrics that may or may not be cool, but really don't tell the whole story without context. So don't get distracted by focusing on shiny baubles and looking at things like revenue or number of employees. Focus instead on things like your quality of life. What is the net owner benefit? How well can you pay your employees on a per head basis? How efficient you are with the space that you have. All right, friends, my name is Mark Fisher. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you click the link below and check out a simple tip I have to increase profit at your training gym every single month. You can do it. I'll catch you next time for more psychological frameworks, actionable tips, and of course, philosophy.